"Nicole, pack a bag. You're leaving tomorrow morning." My adoptive mother said it while counting cash at the kitchen table. That sentence brought me back from the dead. I stood in the hallway, one hand still wrapped around the laundry basket, and stared at Linda Parker. She looked exactly as I remembered her. Same red reading glasses, same tight mouth, same habit of licking her thumb before counting bills. My adoptive father, Gary, sat across from her. My brother Ethan was leaning against the refrigerator, eating the takeout I had paid for that afternoon. And beside Gary sat a man I would recognize even if I lived 100 lives. Roy Mercer, owner of Mercer Family Farm, the man who had bought me last time. Roy pushed an envelope across the table. Gary opened it and smiled. "How much?" Ethan asked. "5,000 now," Gary said. "Another 5 after she stays through harvest." My fingers went numb. Last time, I had walked into this conversation and demanded to know what they were talking about. Linda had smiled. "It's work, Nicole. Stop being dramatic." I believed her. I was 19. I had just finished community college classes for the semester, and Gary told me the family was drowning in debt. He said I needed to help. So I went. Roy took my phone the first night. My ID disappeared the second. When I demanded to leave, he laughed and told me Gary had already taken the money. For 14 months, I worked from before sunrise until my hands split open. When I finally escaped, Linda refused to let me come home. "You embarrassed us," she told me. Years later, after I rebuilt my life from nothing, I discovered something even worse. The Parkers had never been broke. They had money, my money, and before I could prove it, Gary found out I was investigating the account. 3 days later, my car went through a guardrail on a mountain road. I remembered metal crushing around me, then darkness. Now I was 19 again, and Roy Mercer was sitting in my kitchen. "Nicole." Linda's voice snapped me back. I stepped into the room. "What?" "I said you're leaving tomorrow." She gave me an irritated look. "Mr. Mercer has been kind enough to offer you a job." Roy smiled at me, room and board included. I almost laughed. Instead, I set the laundry basket down. "How long?" Gary answered too quickly. "However long he needs you." There it was. Not however long I wanted to stay. However long he needed me. I looked at Roy. "What's the pay?" Linda's expression changed. "Excuse me." "The pay. How much am I making?" Roy glanced at Gary. Gary cleared his throat. "Your earnings will go toward household expenses." "My earnings?" "You live under our roof," Linda said. "Food isn't free." Neither was the electricity I paid last month, or Ethan's phone bill, or the groceries. I had been working evening shifts at Dawson's Grocery for almost 2 years. Linda took most of every paycheck because family helped family. Funny how that rule only applied to me. Ethan snorted. "Just go, Nicole. It's a farm, not prison." I looked at him. In my previous life, Ethan had known. He knew Roy kept my phone. He knew I begged to come home. He knew everything. And he still used the money Gary got for me to buy a used Mustang. I smiled. "You're right." Everyone looked surprised. Linda blinked. "What?" "I said you're right." Gary relaxed immediately. "That's my girl." The words nearly made me sick. I picked up the laundry basket. "What time tomorrow?" 6, Roy said. "I'll pick you up." "Okay." I turned toward the stairs. Linda called after me. "And don't pack too much. Mr. Mercer said they've got everything you need." I stopped. Last time, she had said exactly the same thing. I had packed 3 shirts, jeans, and a toothbrush. Not even enough to run properly. This time, I looked over my shoulder and smiled. "Got it." I went upstairs and locked my bedroom door. Then I dropped the laundry basket. My hands were shaking, but my mind wasn't. I knew exactly what I had to do. Gary kept an emergency fund in a fireproof safe behind the basement furnace. 48 $100,000. At least, that was what I had believed in my first life. Years later, I learned there had once been far more. When my biological parents died, a settlement and life insurance payment had been placed in an account for me. The Parkers became my guardians. Then the money slowly disappeared. They called it family savings. They bought this house with part of it. Gary bought his truck. Linda paid Ethan's private school tuition. And whenever I asked why I had no college fund, Linda said, "We rescued you. Be grateful." Not this time. I pulled an old backpack from my closet. Clothes, phone charger, birth certificate, social security card, driver's license, the $83 hidden inside my winter boot. Then I opened my laptop. There was a Greyhound bus leaving at 2:15 a.m. Destination, Denver. One seat left. I booked it. At 10:47 p.m., I heard Roy's truck leave. At 11:30, Ethan went upstairs. At midnight, Linda shut off the television. At 12:26, Gary's bedroom door closed. I waited another 40 minutes. Then I slipped downstairs. The basement, steps creaked under my feet. I already knew the safe combination. Ethan's birthday. Of course it was. 1. The lock clicked. I opened the door. Stacks of cash filled the bottom shelf. For a moment, I just stared. In my first life, I had spent years feeling guilty for costing this family money. There was more cash sitting in front of me than I had earned in my entire teenage life. I started putting it into my backpack. 10,000, 20, 30, 40. Then I found something behind the last stack. A blue folder. My name was written across the tab. Nicole Bennett. Bennett, not Parker. My birth name. I opened it. There were bank statements, insurance documents, a letter from an attorney, and one page that made my stomach turn. Original trust value, $186,400. I read it twice, then a third time, $186,400. My hand stopped shaking. Suddenly, $48,000 didn't feel like I was stealing their savings. It felt like I was recovering scraps. I shoved the folder into my backpack. Then I heard a floorboard creak upstairs. I closed the safe. Footsteps. Someone was coming. I moved behind the basement door, just as the light switched on. Ethan came down wearing sweatpants. He stopped halfway. "Nicole." I said nothing. He came lower. Then he saw my backpack. His eyes narrowed. "What are you doing?" I stepped out, leaving. At 1 a.m. "Yes." He looked toward the safe, then back at me. His face changed. "You took something." I tightened my grip on the backpack strap. "Go back upstairs, Ethan." "Dad." I lunged forward and grabbed his wrist before he could shout again. "Don't." He stared at me. Maybe it was my expression. Maybe some part of him realized I wasn't the Nicole he had pushed around yesterday. His voice dropped. "You're stealing from us." I leaned closer. "No. I finally found out who's been stealing from me." His eyes flicked toward the backpack. "What did you find?" That reaction told me enough. "You knew." "I don't know what you're talking about." "You knew there was money in my name." He pulled his arm away. "Nicole, whatever you think you found, put it back before Dad wakes up." "Why?" "Because you'll ruin everything." I almost smiled. Everything. Their house. Their comfortable life. His car. The money from Roy. All of it depended on me staying obedient. "Good," I said. "What?" I said good. I walked past him. Ethan grabbed my backpack. "You're not going anywhere." I drove my elbow backward, broke his grip, and ran upstairs. "Dad," Ethan yelled. "Nicole's taking the money." A bedroom door slammed open. "What?" I reached the front door. Linda appeared at the top of the stairs. "Nicole." I unlocked the deadbolt. Gary came charging down behind her. "Put that bag down." I opened the door. He was halfway across the living room when I stepped outside. You walk out with our money, Gary shouted. Don't ever come back. I turned. In my first life, those words would have destroyed me. This time, they sounded like permission. You were planning to sell me for $10,000 tomorrow. Linda went pale. Gary stopped. Ethan stood behind them. Nobody spoke. That was confirmation enough. I smiled. Tell Roy the deal's off. Then I ran. The rideshare I had scheduled was waiting at the corner. Gary came outside barefoot. Nicole. I got into the car. He slammed his hand against the window. You think you can steal $48,000 and disappear? The driver looked at me nervously. Should I call the police? I looked through the glass at the man who had raised me. Gary was furious. Linda was screaming from the porch. Ethan already had his phone out. They thought I had taken $48,000. They had no idea I had taken the blue folder too. No, I told the driver. Just drive. We pulled away. Gary ran after the car for half a block before giving up. My phone started ringing. Linda. I declined it. Again. Declined. Then Ethan. Declined. A text appeared. MOM, bring the money back now. We can forgive this. Another followed. Dad, you have 1 hour before I report you for felony theft. Then one from Ethan. Ethan, you have no idea what you just did. I looked down at the blue folder resting on my lap. For once, my brother was right. I didn't know everything yet, but I knew one thing. In my first life, they had sold me before I learned the truth. This time, I had escaped before sunrise. And when the Parkers woke up tomorrow, they wouldn't just discover that their adopted daughter was gone. They were going to discover that the girl they planned to sell had taken the one thing they valued more than her. Their money. Then my phone buzzed again. This message wasn't from my family. It was from an unknown number. You shouldn't have taken that folder, Nicole. A second message appeared immediately. Get off the bus before Denver. Then a third. Or your parents won't be the ones you need to worry about. I read the message 3 times. Get off the bus before Denver. The bus hadn't even left the station yet. I was still sitting in the back row with my backpack between my feet, watching people drag suitcases through the terminal. My first thought was Gary. My second was Ethan. My third was worse. What if neither of them had sent it? Another message arrived. You have 10 minutes. I typed back. Who is this? No answer. I called the number. Disconnected. Great. I looked at the blue folder again. The attorney letter inside had a name at the top. Mason Reed, LLP. I remembered that name from my first life. Barely. Years later, when I started digging into my adoption, I found an old reference to a lawyer named Daniel Reed. By then, his office had shut down and I couldn't locate him. But right now, 12 years earlier, maybe he was still practicing. I opened my browser and searched. There it was. Daniel Reed. Estate and Family Law. Denver, Colorado. My pulse jumped. The bus driver announced boarding. I shoved the folder into my backpack and got on. If someone wanted me off the bus, I had even more reason to stay on it. At 2:17 a.m., we pulled away. At 2:24, Linda called again. I answered. Nicole. She was screaming so loudly I had to pull the phone away from my ear. Where are you? Somewhere you can't sell me. You stop saying that right now. Why? Because it's disgusting. We were helping you get work. For $10,000. Silence. Then Gary took the phone. You listened to me. No. You stole $48,000. And you took over $100,000 from my trust. His breathing changed. That told me more than any confession could. Who told you that? I smiled despite myself. So it's true. You don't understand those documents. I understand numbers. That money paid for raising you. Funny. I thought adoption meant becoming someone's child, not buying an investment. You ungrateful little. I ended the call. 30 seconds later, a text came in. Dad, police report filed. Enjoy prison. Then another. MOM. Roy is furious. You embarrassed us. There it was. Not scared. Not worried. Embarrassed. I opened the folder again and started photographing every page. Trust statements. Checks. Transfer records. A document showing withdrawals from an account under my birth name. Some were labeled for education, others for housing. One check had Gary's signature. Another payment went directly to a car dealership. I recognized the date. Ethan's Mustang. I almost laughed. Family savings. Sure. I uploaded everything to a new email account, then sent copies to cloud storage. If they got the folder back, they still wouldn't erase the evidence. At 5:40 a.m., we stopped at a gas station outside Grand Junction. I bought coffee and a bagel. When I came back outside, a sheriff's cruiser was parked beside the bus. My stomach tightened. An officer was speaking with the driver. Then he looked at me. Nicole Parker? I considered lying. Bad idea. That's me. I'm Deputy Collins. Can we talk? People were watching. I nodded. He stepped away from the bus. Your parents reported you missing. I almost laughed. Missing. They also reported a large amount of cash stolen from their home. There it is. He raised an eyebrow. There what is? The actual reason they called. His expression stayed neutral. How old are you? 19. So you're legally free to leave. Yes. But the money is a separate issue. I opened my backpack slowly. I have documents. He tensed slightly. Keep your hands visible. Understood. I pulled out the blue folder. My adoptive parents say this money belongs to them. These records show they emptied a trust account that belonged to me. Collins looked skeptical. You're saying the cash you took is yours? I'm saying at minimum there's a serious dispute about where it came from. He flipped through the first pages. His expression changed. How did you get these? They were in the same safe as the cash. You took the whole safe? No, just the money and my records. He looked at me. Your father says you broke into it. I live there. Did you have permission to open it? No, that could still create legal problems. I know. He studied the folder again. Then he asked, What's this farm situation? I told him. Not everything. Enough. That Roy Mercer had paid Gary $5,000. That I was supposed to leave at 6. That nobody had discussed wages with me. That Roy had said my earnings would go to my parents. Collins frowned. Do you have proof of payment? No. I saw the envelope. Messages. I remembered Linda's text. Roy is furious. You embarrassed us. I showed him. Then the unknown texts. His eyes sharpened. Who sent these? I don't know. You think it's Mercer? Maybe. Collins took down the number. Then he surprised me. I'm not arresting you. I exhaled. But he continued, this isn't over. Your parents can still pursue the money. And if there's an active theft complaint, another officer may handle it differently. Understood. You have somewhere safe to go. Yes. That was only technically true. Denver was a city. Cities had hotels. That counted. He handed the folder back. Keep copies. Already did. For the first time, he almost smiled. Good. I got back on the bus. My hands didn't stop shaking until we were 20 miles away. At 8:03 a.m., Ethan called. I ignored it. He called again. Ignored. Third time. I answered. What? You talked to the police. Yes. You showed them the folder. Yes. You're insane. Good morning to you too. Nicole, listen to me. You need to stop. Why? Because Dad is losing it. Sounds healthy. This isn't funny. No. Selling your sister usually isn't. He lowered his voice. You don't understand what's happening. I'm starting to. No, you're not. Then explain it. He hesitated. That caught my attention. Ethan. I can't. Because you're scared of Dad. I'm scared of what happens if you keep digging. I sat up straighter. What does that mean? He whispered. The money wasn't just from your parents. My chest tightened. What? Forget I said that. Ethan, you need to bring the folder back. Why? Because Dad doesn't own everything in it. The call ended. I stared at the screen. Then another message arrived. Unknown number. Your brother talks too much. Cold went down my spine. This person wasn't guessing. They were watching. I typed. What do you want? This time a reply came. The blue folder. Keep the cash. That changed everything. Whoever this was didn't care about $48,000. They cared about paperwork. I went through the folder again, slower. Trust statements, insurance, court documents, adoption paperwork. Then I found something folded inside the back pocket. A handwritten receipt. Not from a bank. Not from a lawyer. Just a date, a dollar amount, and initials. $25,000. Transfer completed. Giepe Rodzaimowski. Gary Parker. Roy Mercer? Below it was another line. Subject, NB. Nicole Bennett. Me. I felt sick. The date was 11 years earlier. When I was 8, Roy Mercer had been connected to my family long before this week. My phone rang. Linda. I answered immediately. What was Roy paying Dad for when I was 8? Nothing. Then Linda said very quietly, Where did you see that? My grip tightened. Answer me. Nicole, come home. No. You don't know what you're doing. Everybody keeps saying that. Because it's true. Was Roy involved in my adoption? She inhaled sharply. That was enough. Linda. Don't call me that. What should I call you? Mom. My voice cracked despite myself. She didn't answer. I hated that. I hated that some stupid part of me still wanted her to deny everything, to tell me I was wrong, to tell me she had loved me once. Instead, she said, Come home and we can fix this. Fix what? You taking the money. I laughed. Of course. Still the money. Did you know Gary took my trust? We used what we had to. For Ethan's car. That family has given you everything. Apparently everything except what was mine. You were a difficult child. I went completely still. Excuse me. You had nightmares. You had behavioral issues. Therapy cost money. I remembered those nights. I remembered waking up screaming because I kept dreaming about a woman I couldn't quite remember. My biological mother. And Linda used that to justify stealing from me. You should have been grateful anyone took you in, she said. That sentence killed the last soft thing I had left for her. So Roy helped arrange it. What? My adoption. She went quiet. I pressed harder. Gary and Roy knew each other back then. Stop. You weren't randomly sending me to his farm. Nicole. You were returning me. Stop. Passengers turned toward me. Linda was breathing hard. Then she said something that made my blood run cold. You were never supposed to find that folder. The line went dead. I sat there for a long moment. Then the bus passed the sign. Denver 42 miles. I should have been relieved. Instead, I felt like I was driving straight toward something they had spent 11 years hiding. When we reached downtown, I got off with my backpack and went directly to the nearest coffee shop. I called Mason Reed. A receptionist answered. Mason Reed, how may I direct your call? I need Daniel Reed. May I ask what this concerns? My name is Nicole Bennett. The woman stopped typing. I heard it. That tiny pause. Can you repeat your name? Nicole Bennett. Another pause. Then she said, Please hold. I waited. 30 seconds. A minute. 2. Finally, a man picked up. His voice was older. Careful. Nicole. Yes. Where are you? Denver. He exhaled. Oh, thank God. I stood up so fast my chair scraped backward. You know me? Yes. How? I represented your mother. My throat tightened. My biological mother? Yes. Then why did nobody tell me? His answer came slowly. Because I was told you died. Everything around me seemed to disappear. What? In 2015, he said, Gary Parker sent my office documentation stating you had died after a medical emergency. I couldn't speak. Daniel continued. Your remaining trust was closed shortly afterward. My fingers went cold around the phone. Closed by who? Your legal guardian. Gary. I looked down at the blue folder. What happened to the money? Daniel didn't answer immediately. Then he said, Nicole, don't go anywhere alone. Why? Because if the documents you have are real, your adoptive father didn't just steal from you. My mouth went dry. What did he do? Daniel's voice lowered. He declared you dead. And before I could respond, someone sat down in the chair across from me. Roy Mercer. He smiled. Found you. Roy Mercer leaned back like we were meeting for lunch. You look tired, Nicole. I kept the phone pressed to my ear. Daniel Reed was still on the line. Nicole, he said. Who's there? I looked at Roy. Roy Mercer. Daniel's voice changed instantly. Do not leave with him. Roy smiled. Attorney Reed. Still making trouble after all these years. I put the call on speaker. Daniel didn't answer Roy. Nicole, tell me exactly where you are. I gave him the coffee shop name. Roy clicked his tongue. That's rude. You threatened me. I texted you a warning. You told me to get off the bus. To protect you. From who? He smiled again. Yourself. I almost laughed. You always talk like a bad movie villain. That smile vanished for half a second. Good. I wanted him irritated. Angry people made mistakes. Daniel said, Nicole, I'm sending someone from my office. Stay in a public place. Roy glanced around. Public places don't make stolen money legal. Neither does buying a 19-year-old. His jaw tightened. I didn't buy you. Then what was the $10,000 for? Placement expenses. I stared at him. Placement? For work. Work where my wages go to Gary. You're simplifying. That's because slavery gets complicated when lawyers show up. Two people at the next table turned. Roy lowered his voice. Watch yourself. I leaned forward. No, you watch yourself. My heart was hammering, but I refused to show it. In my first life, this man had frightened me because he controlled everything. Food, transportation, my phone, whether I got paid, whether I could leave. Now he was sitting in a Denver coffee shop with cameras over his head and an attorney listening. He wasn't powerful here. Not yet. I slid my backpack between my feet. Roy noticed. There's no reason for this to get ugly. It already did 11 years ago. That landed. His eyes sharpened. So you found that page. Which page? He realized the mistake immediately. I smiled. Thanks. He muttered something under his breath. Daniel spoke through the phone. Roy, if you contact my client again. She isn't your client. She is now. That was the first good thing I had heard all morning. Roy stood. So that's how you want to play this? I looked up at him. Yes. He pointed toward my bag. The money is one thing. The folder is another. So everyone keeps telling me, you have documents that don't belong to you. They have my name on them. Not all of them. Interesting. What else is in there? Roy didn't answer. Instead, he bent closer. Your parents are willing to forget the theft if you come home. My parents declared me dead. His expression didn't change. That scared me more than surprise would have. You knew. I know Gary made mistakes. Mistakes. People panic when money is involved. You mean my money? Nicole, you don't understand how much debt that family had. I stared at him. They used my trust. They kept a roof over your head. That line again. It's true. No, it's convenient. His voice hardened. You think because you ran away with a backpack, you suddenly know the world. I know enough not to get in your truck. He looked at the phone, then at me. Last chance. For what? Give me the folder. And if I don't? His answer was quiet. Then Gary stops being the worst person in your life. He walked out. I watched through the window until he reached a black pickup. Not the truck I remembered from the farm. A newer one. Someone was sitting in the passenger seat. I couldn't see the face. Roy got in. They drove away. Daniel came back on the line immediately. Nicole, are you all right? Yes. No, are you physically safe? He left. Good. Stay there. Daniel. Yes. What did he mean when he said not all the documents belong to me? I don't know. You represented my biological mother. Yes. Then start explaining. He was quiet for a moment. I will, but not over the phone. 20 minutes later, a woman in a gray blazer walked into the coffee shop. She was maybe 35, carrying a leather briefcase. Nicole Bennett. Yes. I'm Rachel Soto, Daniel's associate. She showed me her firm ID before I asked. I liked her immediately. Not because she was friendly. She wasn't. Because she was careful. Do you have the folder? Yes. Don't take it out here. Why? Because Roy Mercer was sitting with you 20 minutes ago. Fair. She paid for my coffee, ignored my protest, and drove me downtown. Mason Reed occupied one floor of an older office building. Daniel Reed met us near reception. He looked almost 70. Gray hair. Rolled sleeves. No dramatic reaction. He just stopped when he saw me. Then he said, "You look like Claire." My chest tightened. My mother. He nodded. I hated how much those two words affected me. Nobody in the Parker house ever said I looked like anyone. Linda once told me I had stranger eyes. I sat across from Daniel in a conference room. Rachel locked the door. Then I put the blue folder on the table. Daniel didn't touch it. Before we start, he said, I need you to understand something. If these records show what I think they show, this could involve fraud, misuse of a minor's assets, false filings, and potentially other crimes. I understand. No, you understand the words. You may not understand what happens next. What happens next? Your adoptive parents will probably accuse you of theft. They already did. They may sue. Okay. They may claim you're unstable. I laughed once. They've been practicing that story for years. Daniel didn't smile. And if Roy Mercer is involved, I want you somewhere they can't easily find you. I'm not hiding. You don't have to hide. You have to stop making yourself easy to reach. That was different. I nodded. He finally opened the folder. For almost 15 minutes, nobody said much. Daniel read. Rachel photographed. I watched their faces. The worse it got, the less they spoke. Finally, Daniel removed one document. This shouldn't be here. What is it? An internal transfer authorization. From my trust. Yes. He pointed to a signature. Gary Parker. Then another. Who is that? Daniel looked at me. Roy Mercer. I felt my stomach drop. So he did know. Yes. What did he authorize? Transfer of $25,000 from an account connected to your guardianship. To where? Daniel turned the page. Mercer Agricultural Holdings. I laughed because the alternative was screaming. So the farm took my money too? Possibly. Why? That's what we need to find out. Rachel opened another document. Daniel. He looked. Her expression had changed. She slid the page across. It was a photocopy of a county record. At the top was my name, Nicole Bennett. Below it, date of death, October 18th, 2015. Cause, cardiac complications following congenital illness. I stared at it. I don't have a congenital heart condition. I know, Daniel said. How? Because I handled medical documentation after your mother died. Something clicked. Why would my medical records be part of the trust? Because the settlement partly came from a wrongful death claim. I looked at him. What happened to my parents? Daniel leaned back. Your father died first. How? Worksite accident. And my mother? Car crash 8 months later. My breath caught. A car crash, just like mine. Daniel continued. Claire believed your father's accident involved negligence. She pursued the company. We reached a settlement. Most of it went into a protected account for you. How much? He hesitated. More than the number on that trust summary. I frowned. How much more? Originally. Yes. About $412,000. I stared at him. The room felt wrong. Too small. Too clean. Too normal for that number. 400,000. Approximately. And I found 48. Cash isn't necessarily all that remains. Where is the rest? That's what we're going to trace. Rachel interrupted. There's another issue. Of course there was. She placed 3 bank statements side by side. Look at these dates. I did. 1, 2, 3. Withdrawals. Transfers. Large ones. Then one line caught my eye. Beneficiary disbursement following death certification. Beneficiary. Daniel nodded. When a minor beneficiary dies, remaining funds can be handled according to the instrument. Who got mine? He turned the page. Gary Parker. I closed my eyes for 1 second. Not because I was shocked anymore, because I had reached a point where each new piece of information made the previous betrayal look small. He didn't just use my money. He killed me on paper, then collected what was left. Rachel asked, Do you remember ever being hospitalized in October 2015? No. Were you living with the Parkers? Yes. School. Roosevelt Middle. Daniel looked at Rachel. We can establish she was alive. I'd hope so, I said. I'm sitting here. He gave me a tired look. For court purposes. Right. He started writing notes. We need school attendance, medical visits, photographs, tax records, anything placing you alive after the reported death. I stared at the death certificate again. Something bothered me. Wait. Daniel stopped. If I was legally dead, how did I get a driver's license? He looked at Rachel. She looked back at him. Then she said, That's a very good question. And Social Security? Another good question. Daniel stood. We need to verify whether this was actually filed with state vital records or whether it was a forged document used privately. So maybe I'm not officially dead. Maybe. That's comforting. He ignored the sarcasm. Rachel, check the certificate number. She left. My phone buzzed. Gary. I declined. Then Linda. Declined. Then an unknown local number. I answered. Nicole Parker? Bennett. A man paused. This is Detective Aaron Walsh with the Denver Police Department. My eyes went to Daniel. He held out his hand for the phone. I shook my head. What can I do for you? We received a theft complaint forwarded from Mesa County involving approximately $48,000. I know. Your father says you admitted taking it. I did take it. Daniel pinched the bridge of his nose. Probably not the sentence he wanted. I continued, but I have documents showing he stole significantly more from a trust in my name. Walsh paused. Do you have counsel? Yes. Then I'd like to speak with you and your attorney. Daniel nodded. When? Today. Fine. After the call, Daniel said, next time, don't volunteer admissions. I'm bad at being a criminal. That may help. Rachel returned, holding a printed page. Her face had gone pale. It's real. Daniel stood. What? The death certificate number is valid. I swallowed. So I'm legally dead? Not exactly, she said. What does that mean? It means someone filed a death record under your birth identity. My birth identity? Daniel understood before I did. He pulled my driver's license from the table. Nicole Parker. Then he looked at the death certificate. Nicole Bennett. 2 names, 2 legal trails. Rachel said quietly, after 2015, they stopped using your original identity. I felt cold. They gave me a new one. Daniel nodded slowly, possibly through amended adoption records. Why? To keep the old Nicole Bennett dead. Nobody spoke for a moment. Then I laughed softly. It sounded terrible. So that was the plan. Daniel frowned. What? They didn't just steal the trust. I tapped the death certificate. They erased the girl who owned it. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Ethan. One message. Please stop digging. Dad knows you're with Reed. Then another. Roy is at our house. And a third. They're burning documents. I stood immediately. Daniel said, What happened? I showed him. His face hardened. Rachel, call Walsh. I called Ethan. He answered on the first ring. What are they burning? His breathing was fast. I don't know. Boxes from the attic. Take pictures. Are you insane? Ethan, take pictures. If Dad catches me. You said I didn't understand what I was doing. Fine. Help me understand. He didn't answer. Then I heard a door slam on his end. A man shouted, Gary, who are you talking to? Ethan whispered, I have to go. Wait. The call ended. 10 seconds later, a photo came through. Blurry. Taken through a window. Gary and Roy stood beside a metal burn barrel behind the house. Gary was holding papers. Roy had a cardboard box. I zoomed in. One label was visible. Bennett Estate. Daniel swore. Then another picture arrived. This one closer. Inside the box were files. On top was a photograph. A woman holding a little girl. The little girl was me. And beside them stood a younger Roy Mercer. My breath stopped. Under the photo, handwritten in black ink, were 4 words. Claire refused the offer. I looked at Daniel. What offer? He stared at the image. I don't know. You represented her. Yes. So think. His face changed. Not recognition exactly. Something close. Then he said, Your mother called me 3 days before she died. I gripped the phone. What did she say? Daniel looked at me. She said someone was trying to buy her land. I glanced at the photograph again. Roy. Farm owner. Money from my trust. My mother dead in a car crash. Me declared dead years later. The pieces weren't connecting yet, but they were getting close enough to scare everyone. Then Ethan sent one final message. Nicole, I found something before they burned it. A photo loaded underneath. It was an old handwritten contract. At the bottom were Gary Parker's signature and Roy Mercer's. At the top, transfer of custodial interest, Nicole Bennett. And beside my name was a number, $75,000. I stared at the photo Ethan sent me. The contract was old. The paper was yellow. The handwriting was faded. But the words were clear. Transfer of custodial interest, Nicole Bennett. And underneath my name, $75,000. I read it again. Then again. My brain refused to accept what my eyes were seeing. What does that mean? I asked. Nobody answered immediately. Daniel Reed picked up the phone and zoomed in on the image Ethan had sent. Send the original. I don't have it, I said. Not you. Your brother. I texted Ethan. Take the document. Hide it. Do not show your father. The reply came almost instantly. You think I don't know that? For the first time since I ran away, I felt something strange. Not trust, not forgiveness, but the realization that maybe Ethan wasn't completely on their side. Daniel put the phone down. Nicole listened carefully. I looked at him. Whatever this document is, do not confront Gary or Roy about it. Why? Because right now we don't know what they believe they can still control. They already tried to sell me. Yes. And they already declared me dead. Yes. So what's worse? Daniel didn't answer. That scared me. I had spent my entire life thinking the worst thing they could do was hurt me. I was wrong. The worst thing they could do was erase me. Rachel pulled up another file on her laptop. I searched county records. And there's something strange. Everything involving my family was strange. What? The adoption process. Daniel leaned forward. Rachel continued. According to these records, Nicole Bennett was placed with Gary and Linda Parker after your parents died. Okay, but the adoption wasn't finalized immediately. How long? Almost 3 years. I frowned. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't. Why? Because during those 3 years, the Parkers were only temporary guardians. I looked at Daniel. What does that mean? It means they had responsibilities. Like taking care of me? Yes. Not owning me? Daniel's expression tightened. No. I laughed bitterly. That didn't stop them. Rachel scrolled. During those 3 years, there were multiple withdrawals from your trust. How many? 7. For what? She turned the screen. Medical expenses, school expenses, housing, transportation, all the things guardians were allowed to request reimbursement for. Except something was wrong. The amounts were much higher than normal. They build your trust for things they never paid for, Rachel said. I looked closer. A housing payment, a vehicle payment, a home renovation. My stomach turned. They used my money to improve their house. Yes. And then told me I should be grateful they gave me a bedroom. Nobody answered, because there was nothing to say. I thought about all the times Linda told me I was lucky. Lucky to have food. Lucky to have a roof. Lucky someone wanted me. Meanwhile, she was taking money from the child she claimed to save. My phone buzzed. Ethan. This time it was a call. I answered. Where are you? His voice was low. Not inside the house. Did you get the document? Yes. Send it. I can't. Why? Because Dad has my phone tracked. I froze. What? I'm serious. How do you know? Because when you left, he took my phone and checked every message. I looked at Daniel. He immediately reached for a notebook. Keep him talking. I nodded. Ethan, why are you helping me? There was a long pause. Then he said something I never expected, because I didn't know. I frowned. Didn't know what. The money. What about it? I thought Dad was just helping you. I almost laughed. You believed that. I was 16. You were 16 when you knew Roy was taking me to the farm. Silence. Then his voice became quieter. I thought you were leaving for work. You heard them talking. Yes. And you said nothing. I was scared. That answer should have made me angry. Instead, I felt tired, because I understood fear. I had lived with it. Where are you now? At a gas station. Why? Because Dad and Roy are at the house. What are they doing? Looking for the folder. My grip tightened. They know about it? Roy knows. How? Dad told him. Of course. Gary had always chosen money over people, even his own son. What did they say? Ethan hesitated. Then, Roy said if you gave the folder back, nobody would get hurt. I looked at Daniel. His face was serious. Ethan. Yeah. Did Roy threaten me? He didn't say your name. That's not what I asked. Another pause. Then, yes. I closed my eyes. There it was. Confirmation. What else? He said your mother made the same mistake. The room went silent. My heart started beating faster. What mistake? I don't know. Ethan. I swear I don't. Ask him. What? Find out what he means. You want me to spy on Dad? I want you to stop pretending you don't know something is wrong. He didn't answer. Then, I'll try. The call ended. Daniel looked at me. You trust him? No. Good. I looked at him. But I think he's scared. That can still be dangerous. I know. Rachel closed her laptop. There's another problem. I almost smiled. Of course there is. She ignored the comment. The contract Ethan photographed has one important detail. What? She enlarged the bottom. A signature. Not Gary's. Not Roy's. Someone else. Linda Parker. My adoptive mother. I stared. She signed it. Yes. For what? Daniel took the image. His face changed. She signed away her guardianship rights. What? She transferred custodial authority. To Roy. No. Then who? He zoomed in. The name was partially covered, but enough was visible. Mercer Agricultural Holdings. My blood ran cold. They transferred me to a company. Not legally. Then what was the $75,000? Daniel looked at me. That's what we need to prove. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Nobody spoke. Hello. A man's voice finally came. Nicole Bennett. I recognized it. Roy, how did you get this number? You're asking the wrong question. What's the right one? Why did your mother refuse? My entire body went still. What? You found the contract. How do you know? You have the same curiosity she had. Don't talk about my mother. She should have taken the deal. What deal? The one that would have kept you alive. I stood up. Daniel immediately mouthed. Record it. I turned on recording. What are you talking about? Roy sighed. You think Gary and Linda are your biggest enemies. They're not. No. Then who? He didn't answer. Instead, he said, your mother found out what your father was doing before he died. My fingers tightened around the phone. What was he doing? Selling land. That has nothing to do with me. It does when that land was worth millions. I looked at Daniel. He was listening carefully. Roy continued. Claire Bennett thought she could fight everyone. My mother. Yes. She died because of that. A pause. Then, she died because she refused to cooperate. My stomach dropped. You're saying you killed her? No. Then what are you saying? I'm saying she made choices. You were there. I knew your parents. Why? Because your father needed money. For what? Roy didn't answer. Give me the folder, Nicole. No. You don't know what's inside. I know enough. No, you don't. His voice became colder. That folder doesn't prove your parents loved you. I felt something twist inside me. It was exactly the kind of thing he wanted. To make me doubt. To make me feel alone. But I wasn't that girl anymore. You're wrong. Am I? Yes. Why? Because my mother spent her last days protecting something. What? Me. The line went quiet. Then Roy said, You sound just like her. Good. I hung up. For a few seconds, nobody moved. Then Daniel said, Nicole. Yes. I need to tell you something. What? Your mother didn't just leave you money. I waited. She left evidence. Evidence of what? Daniel looked at the contract, then at the death certificate, then at me. Evidence that someone planned to take everything from you before you were old enough to fight back. My phone buzzed. A new message. From Ethan. One photo. A room. An old storage closet. Inside were boxes. On one box was a label. Claire Bennett, personal items. And underneath, open only if Nicole returns. I stared at the message. My mother had left something behind. Something they never wanted me to find. Then Ethan sent one final text. Nicole, Dad just found out I helped you. A second message came. He said I'm next. I looked at Daniel. The past wasn't buried anymore. It was coming after us. And this time I wasn't running away. I was running toward the truth. I read Ethan's message again. He said I'm next. For a few seconds, I didn't understand what he meant. Then I did. Gary Parker had spent 11 years convincing me that he controlled my life. But now I realize something. He controlled people by making them afraid. Me, Ethan, even Linda. The difference was that I wasn't afraid anymore. Daniel, I said. He looked up. I need to get that box. No. The answer came so quickly that it almost annoyed me. No. Absolutely not. My brother has evidence. Your brother is inside a house with 2 men who are already destroying documents. Which is exactly why I need to go. Rachel shook her head. Nicole, that's what they want. They want me to come back. Yes. Why? Because they know you have something they need. I looked at the photo. My mother's name. Her belongings. A box they hid for years. They've been hiding pieces of my life since I was a child. Daniel's expression softened slightly. I know. No, you don't. My voice became sharper than I intended. You know paperwork. You know accounts. You know legal documents. I pointed at the photo. But that box is the only thing I have that belonged to my mother. Nobody spoke, because they understood. This wasn't just evidence. It was the first piece of my real family I had ever been offered. Dayton aside. Fine. Rachel looked at him. Daniel. I didn't say she goes alone. He looked at me. You're coming with us. 2 hours later, we were driving back toward my old house. I sat in the passenger seat while Rachel drove. Daniel was on the phone contacting Detective Walsh. The entire ride, my mind kept returning to one question. Why? Why would Gary and Linda go this far? Stealing money was one thing, but declaring a living person dead? Creating fake records? Changing my identity? That required planning. Years of planning. When we reached the neighborhood, I saw my old house. Nothing looked different. Same driveway. Same mailbox. Same broken fence. That almost made it worse. A place could look normal while hiding terrible things. Rachel parked 2 streets away. We don't walk in. I looked at her. Then how do we get inside? We don't. I frowned. Then how do we get the box? She held up her phone. Your brother. I called Ethan. He answered immediately. Are you okay? Where are you? Behind the garage. Can you get the box? I'm trying. What does that mean? It means Dad locked the storage room. Of course. Do you have the key? No. Can you get it? Nicole. Ethan. He stopped. My voice softened. You're the only person inside who can help me. A long pause. Then, I'll try. 5 minutes passed. 10. Then a message came. Come to the back fence. Rachel and I moved quietly. Ethan appeared behind the fence, carrying a small cardboard box. He looked terrible. His shirt was wrinkled. His face was pale. What happened? He handed me the box. Dad knows. What did he do? He hit me. Everything inside me went cold. Rachel immediately stepped forward. Are you injured? I'm fine. You're not fine. Ethan looked away. For the first time, I saw him differently. Not as the spoiled brother who took everything, but as someone who had finally realized the same. People who hurt me could hurt him too. What did he say? I asked. Ethan swallowed. He said I was becoming like you. I almost laughed. Like me? He said you were ungrateful. Of course. That was always their favorite word. Ungrateful. Never wrong. Never guilty. Just ungrateful. I opened the box. Inside were old photographs, letters, a small necklace, a hospital bracelet, and a journal. My hand started shaking. The first page had a date. March 12th, 2009. The handwriting was beautiful. Dear Nicole. I stopped breathing. My mother's words. Not a document. Not a legal record. Her actual words. I turned the page. If you are reading this, then something happened that I was afraid of. My heart tightened. Daniel stepped closer. Read it. I did. I don't know when you'll find this. Maybe you'll be a teenager. Maybe you'll be an adult. Maybe Gary and Linda will still be pretending to love you. I froze. She knew. She knew. Nicole listened carefully. Gary Parker was never supposed to control your inheritance. He was only appointed temporary guardian because I trusted the wrong person. I turned the page faster. Your father discovered something about the company he worked for. He found evidence that they were hiding unsafe practices. He planned to expose them. My eyes moved down. After his death, people started asking questions. Then Roy Mercer appeared. He offered Gary money. Daniel leaned closer. What does it say? I read aloud. He told Gary that if he gave up custody of Nicole's assets, everything would disappear. Rachel whispered, custody of assets. Not custody of me. My mother knew. She knew they cared about the money. I kept reading. I refused to believe Gary would betray a child. I was wrong. My throat tightened. If something happens to me, Nicole, remember this. People who love you protect your future. They do not sell it. I stopped. The words hurt, because I spent years wondering why my mother abandoned me. She didn't. She tried to protect me. The last page was different. It wasn't a letter. It was a list. Names, dates, payments. At the bottom, Roy Mercer, $75,000. Gary Parker, $75,000. And one final line, reason, transfer of guardianship access. Daniel took the journal carefully. This changes everything. Ethan looked confused. What? I looked at him. Dad didn't adopt me because he wanted a daughter. Ethan looked away. He adopted me because I was worth money. Nobody corrected me, because everyone knew. Then a sound came from behind us. A car door closing. Rachel turned. Someone followed us. A black SUV stopped at the end of the street. Roy stepped out. My blood ran cold. But this time I didn't move backward. He walked toward us slowly. Nicole. Daniel stepped between us. Mr. Mercer. Roy ignored him. You opened the box. Yes. You shouldn't have. Why? Because your mother was very good at hiding things. I held up the journal. She was better than you. His face hardened. You have no idea what you're involved in. Then explain. He looked at Ethan. Your brother already made enough mistakes. Ethan stepped back. I moved between them. Don't. Roy studied me. You really think you're different now? I am. No. He shook his head. You're still Claire Bennett's daughter. I stared. And that scares you. For the first time, Roy looked angry. Not annoyed. Angry. Good. You should have stayed on that bus. I should have stayed quiet. Yes. I smiled. That was never going to happen. Roy looked at Daniel. You're making a mistake. Daniel answered calmly. No. I made a mistake 11 years ago. Roy's eyes narrowed. What mistake? Believing Gary Parker. That was the first time Roy looked uncertain. Only for a second. But I saw it. Then his phone rang. He answered, listened. His expression changed. What? A pause. Then, no, that's impossible. He looked directly at me. Where did you get that journal? I held it tighter. Why? He didn't answer. Daniel stepped forward. What happened? Roy ended the call. For the first time, he looked genuinely worried. Then he said, Gary was arrested. Nobody moved. What? Ethan whispered. Roy looked at me. The police found the documents he was burning. I almost smiled. Good. But Roy wasn't finished. They also found something else. What? He stared at the journal in my hand. Your mother's original adoption agreement. My heart stopped. Original? Yes. And Roy's face became unreadable. Nicole Bennett was never legally adopted by Gary and Linda Parker. I looked at Daniel. He was stunned. What? Roy took one step closer. She was placed under their care temporarily. Then why did they call me their daughter? His answer came quietly. Because someone paid them to. The street suddenly felt colder. Who? Roy looked at me and said the one name I never expected. Your mother's lawyer. Daniel went pale. I turned toward him. What? He didn't answer. And that was the first moment I realized something terrifying. Maybe Gary and Roy weren't the only people hiding the truth. Maybe the person who was supposed to protect my family had been part of the plan all along. I looked at Daniel Reed, the man who had spent the last few hours telling me he wanted to uncover the truth. The man who had looked at my mother's handwriting and said he was sorry. The man who now couldn't meet my eyes. Is that true? Nobody answered. Not Roy. Not Daniel. Not Rachel. Only Ethan looked between us, confused. Nicole. I raised my hand. Not now. My eyes stayed on Daniel. Did you pay Gary and Linda? His face tightened. No. Did you help arrange my guardianship? He didn't answer quickly enough. That was the problem. A person who had nothing to hide answered immediately. Daniel. He took a breath. Yes. My chest tightened. Yes, what? I helped arrange the temporary guardianship. The words landed harder than I expected. Even after everything I had learned, some part of me still believed Daniel was different. A mistake. A mistake was easier to accept than another betrayal. Why? Because your mother asked me to. I stared at him. That makes no sense. It will. I'm listening. Daniel looked older suddenly. Not because of his age, because of guilt. Your mother knew someone was watching her. Who? She didn't know. That's convenient. I'm not asking you to trust me. Good. I'm asking you to let me explain. Roy interrupted. Funny. Everyone looked at him. You finally admit it. Daniel turned. Leave. Roy smiled. Still protecting your reputation? No. Protecting Nicole from hearing half-truths from you. Roy laughed. Half-truths. He looked at me. You think he was your hero? I said nothing. Ask him why your mother didn't want you adopted. My eyes moved back to Daniel. Why? Daniel closed his eyes briefly. Then he answered, because she was afraid. Of Gary? No. Of Roy? No. Then who? Daniel looked at the journal in my hand. Your father. The words made no sense. My father died. Yes. So how could he be the threat? Because before he died, he left something behind. What? Evidence. My patience snapped. Everyone keeps saying that. I stepped closer. Evidence. Documents. Secrets. I pointed at the house. Do you understand what it feels like to spend your entire life not knowing who you are? Daniel didn't move. I know. No, you don't. Ido. His voice was quiet, because I watched Claire lose everything trying to protect you. That stopped me. What? Daniel looked at the ground. Your mother came to my office 3 days before the accident. Why? She wanted to change your trust. To what? She wanted a new guardian. Who? Daniel looked at me. No one. I frowned. What? She wanted you placed in state care, temporarily. I stepped back. That's not protecting me. It was. How? Because she knew anyone connected to your father could become a target. I shook my head. She wanted to abandon me. No. His voice became firm. She wanted to remove the value people saw in you. I didn't understand. Then Daniel explained. Your trust was large. Your father's company was being investigated. Several people believed your inheritance would be the easiest way to gain control of everything. And Gary, he was supposed to be temporary, but he stayed. Yes. Why? Daniel looked at Roy. Because someone paid him. Roy didn't deny it. That bothered me. So you knew Gary was taking money. I suspected. And you did nothing. Daniel looked away. That was answer enough. My anger rose. You knew. I was trying to gather proof. For 11 years. His face fell. I failed. That was the first honest thing he said. I looked at him. You failed and I paid for it. Yes. The simple admission hurt more than excuses. Rachel quietly said, Daniel was removed from the case after your mother died. I looked at her. What? He lost access to several documents. The court records were sealed. Then why didn't you tell me? Daniel answered, Because I couldn't find you. I laughed. That's impossible. No. He shook his head. After the adoption changes, your records were altered. School records, medical records, everything. So Gary really erased me. Yes. I looked at Roy, and you helped. Roy crossed his arms. I managed business. You managed buying a child. His expression darkened. Careful. Why? Afraid the truth sounds ugly. Before he could answer, police sirens appeared in the distance. Roy looked toward the street. His confidence disappeared. Daniel checked his phone. Detective Walsh. A moment later, he answered, Yes. He listened, then looked at me. Gary was officially arrested. Ethan sat down on the curb. What did he get arrested for? Daniel answered, Forgery, financial fraud, destruction of evidence. I expected satisfaction. I expected relief. Instead, I felt something strange. Empty. Because Gary being arrested didn't erase the years. It didn't erase every time Linda told me I should be grateful. It didn't erase being sent away. It didn't erase believing nobody wanted me. Then Ethan spoke. Nicole. I looked at him. I found something else. What? He pulled his phone out. I took pictures before they arrested Dad. He opened a folder. Inside were dozens of photos, documents, receipts, letters. Then one picture stopped me. A letter, addressed to Gary Parker, from Linda Parker. The date was 1 month after my adoption paperwork began. I zoomed in. The first line said, We need to keep Nicole quiet until the trust transfer is complete. My stomach turned. I opened the next image. Once the account is emptied, Roy will arrange the farm placement. I looked at Ethan. You knew. His face changed. No. Then why did you have these? Because I found them hidden in Dad's desk. I kept scrolling. Another document. Another name. Nicole Bennett Estate Transfer Agreement. Signed by Gary Parker, Linda Parker, Roy Mercer, and Daniel Reed. My hands went cold. I looked up. Daniel had seen it too. His face had lost all color. Explain. He didn't answer. Explain. I didn't sign that. The signature says you did. He took the phone, studied the image, then whispered, That's not my signature. Nobody spoke. Rachel grabbed the phone. After several seconds, she looked up. He's right. How do you know? Because Daniel's signature has a specific stroke pattern. She pointed. This one was copied. I looked at Daniel. So someone forged your name? Yes. Why? To make it look legal. I looked at the agreement again. They didn't just steal from me. They built a fake system around me. A fake family. A fake identity. A fake death. Everything. Then my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. A woman's voice came through. Nicole. I didn't recognize it. Who is this? My name is Rebecca Bennett. My heart stopped. That last name. Bennett. Are you related to me? The woman was crying. Yes. How? I'm your aunt. I couldn't speak. Daniel stood. Nicole, be careful. The woman continued. I've been looking for you for 11 years. Why? Because your mother asked me to find you if anything happened. My fingers tightened around the phone. Where were you? Locked out. By who? Her voice broke. By the same people who told everyone you were dead. I looked at Daniel, then Roy, then the house behind us. The life I thought I understood was disappearing piece by piece. Rebecca continued. Nicole, there's something you need to know. What? Your mother didn't die in an accident. Nobody moved. Not even Roy. What did you say? She was killed because she found out where your father's missing evidence was. My heart raced. Where? Rebecca whispered. She hid it with you. I frowned. What? She knew they would come after the money. A pause. Then. So she hid the real evidence inside the only thing they would never suspect. What? Rebecca's voice became softer. Your childhood memories. The call ended. I looked at everyone. What does that mean? Nobody answered. Then Daniel slowly said, Nicole. What? He looked terrified. Your mother may have left something inside the adoption records. I shook my head. No. Daniel looked at the photo of little Nicole Bennett. Yes. What? Your adoption was never about taking you in. He swallowed. It was about hiding what you knew. For a moment, nobody moved. I looked at Daniel, then at the phone in my hand, then back at the photograph of myself as a little girl. A child smiling beside my mother. A child who had no idea that adults around her were fighting over money, power, and secrets. What does that mean? My voice sounded quieter than I expected. Daniel didn't answer immediately. I hated that. Every time someone hesitated, it meant there was something worse coming. Daniel. He finally looked at me. Your mother knew she might not survive. The words hurt. Not because I hadn't considered it, because hearing someone say it made it real. She knew. Yes. How long? A few weeks before the accident. Then why didn't she take me and leave? Daniel's expression changed. Because he knew that was the question I had carried my entire life. Why did my mother leave me? Why didn't she save me? She tried. My heart stopped. What? She tried to leave with you. I looked at him. When? 2 days before the accident. Then what happened? Daniel looked at Roy. Roy's face was unreadable. That was enough. What did he do? Daniel said nothing. I turned toward Roy. What did you do? Roy didn't answer. You knew my mother. Yes. You knew she wanted to leave. Yes. And you stopped her. His jaw tightened. I told her she couldn't run from consequences. I laughed. A cold, angry laugh. Consequences. I stepped closer. You mean exposing people who were hurting others? You don't understand the situation. I understand enough. No, you don't. Roy's voice became harder. Your father was not the hero you think he was. Daniel immediately interrupted. Don't. But Roy continued. He stole information. Information about unsafe practices. Information that could destroy companies. So he found proof. He found something dangerous. And you wanted it. Roy didn't answer. That was answer enough. Daniel stepped between us. Nicole, we need to leave. No. Everyone looked at me. I'm tired of running. My voice shook, but I didn't stop. My whole life, people have made decisions for me. I pointed toward the house. Gary decided I was worth money. I pointed toward Roy. You decided I was a problem. Then I looked at Daniel. And you decided protecting me meant hiding the truth. Nobody spoke. So no. I picked up the journal. I'm not leaving until I know what my mother was trying to tell me. Daniel looked at Rachel, then nodded. Then we find out. We returned to Daniel's office, not because it was safe, because it was the only place where the truth existed. Ethan came with us. He barely spoke during the drive. I understood why. His entire world had collapsed too. The difference was that mine had collapsed years ago. His had just started. When we arrived, Daniel placed the journal, the contract, and the old documents on the table. Your mother knew someone might access your records. So she hid something. Yes. Inside my adoption records. Possibly. Rachel opened the adoption file. Look here. She pointed to a page. This is unusual. What? Most adoption files have medical history, legal information, family background. And your file has almost none of that. Why? Because someone removed pages. I stared. Removed? Yes. Daniel frowned. Let me see. He looked through the file carefully. Then his expression changed. This wasn't done recently. When? Years ago. By who? He turned the page. There's an authorization stamp. I leaned closer. A name appeared. Linda Parker. I felt my hands tighten. She had access. As your guardian, yes. She deleted my records. Looks like it. Why? Nobody answered. Then Ethan quietly said, maybe she didn't want you to know who you were. I looked at him. That sentence hurt because it was probably true. Rachel continued searching. Wait. She pulled out another document. This page wasn't removed. What is it? An inventory list. For what? Items transferred during adoption placement. Daniel took it. Nicole. I looked at him. There's a note. What note? He read slowly. One personal item retained by biological mother until child reaches adulthood. My heart started racing. What item? The bottom of the page was torn. Only 2 words remained. Silver key. I looked at the necklace from my mother's box. A small silver pendant. I grabbed it. This. Daniel examined it. Maybe. The pendant had always looked ordinary. Linda told me it was cheap. A piece of junk from my biological mother. She gave it to me when I was little and said, don't lose it. It's the only thing you have. I thought she meant emotionally. Maybe she meant literally. Rachel found a tiny opening on the side. Nicole. What? This isn't jewelry. She pressed the pendant. A small piece moved. Inside was a tiny metal strip. Everyone froze. What is that? Ethan asked. Daniel carefully removed it. It's a storage key. For what? He looked at the numbers engraved on it. Not a key. Then what? A locker number. My heart started beating faster. Where? Daniel recognized the code. His face changed. Denver Central Bank. The same bank where my mother had created my trust. The same place where everything began. I stood. We're going. Daniel shook his head. Not yet. Why? Because if your mother hid something there, she expected only you to access it. I've 19. Yes. She waited until I was an adult. Yes. I looked at the key. My mother had planned this. She knew. She knew she might not be there. She knew people would lie. And she still found a way to leave me something. For the first time in years, I didn't feel abandoned. I felt loved. Then the office door opened. Everyone turned. Detective Walsh stood there. "I'm sorry to interrupt." Daniel stood. "What happened?" Walsh looked at me. "We found something at the Parker house." "What?" He hesitated, then handed me an evidence bag. Inside was a photograph. An old photograph. Me, at 8 years old, standing outside Mercer Farm. My face went pale. I've never been there. Walsh looked at Daniel. "That's what we thought." I looked closer. Behind young me was a building, and beside me stood Roy. But the date on the back was impossible. October 18th, 2015. The day I was supposedly dead. My breathing stopped. "That's not possible." Walsh said quietly, "That's why we're concerned." Daniel took the photo. "Where did you find this?" "In Gary Parker's office." "What else?" Walsh looked at me. "Another document." "What document?" He pulled out a copy. A signed statement. I read the first line. "Confirmation of successful transfer." My stomach dropped. Below it, subject Nicole Bennett. Status delivered. Delivered. Not adopted. Not protected. Delivered. I looked at Roy's name. Then Gary's. Then another signature. Linda's. My hand shook. But the last line was what broke me. "Final payment received. $75,000. I looked up. That was the money. Daniel nodded. "Yes." The money, they said, was for raising me. Nobody spoke, because now we knew. It wasn't support. It wasn't adoption. It was a transaction. A deal. I looked at the photograph of myself as a child, and finally understood. They didn't take me in. They acquired me. My phone rang. Unknown number. Again. I answered. A man's voice came through. "Nicole Bennett." I didn't respond. "You found the locker key." My blood ran cold. "How do you know?" "Because we've been waiting for you to find it." "Who are you?" The man laughed softly. "The person who knows why your mother really died." I gripped the phone. "Tell me." "Come alone." "No." "Then you'll never know what was inside the locker." I looked at Daniel. He shook his head. "Don't." The man continued. "You have 1 day." 1 day for what?" "To decide whether you want the truth." His voice lowered. "Or whether you want to keep believing your mother loved you." The call ended. I stared at the screen. Everyone was watching me. Daniel spoke first. "Don't go." I looked at the silver key, then at the photo of my mother. "I have to." "Nicole." I looked at him. This entire time, they were trying to make me disappear. I picked up my jacket, but my mother spent her last days making sure I would be found. Nobody stopped me, because they knew this wasn't about money anymore. It was about finally meeting the truth my mother died protecting. And this time, I wasn't running away. I was walking straight into it. I didn't go alone. That was the first thing I decided. The person who called wanted me to believe I was still the scared 19-year-old girl who had spent her entire life obeying other people. The girl who apologized when someone hurt her. The girl who thought having a family meant accepting anything they did. That girl was gone. "I'm going." Daniel looked at me. "No." I expected that answer. But this time, I wasn't asking permission. "I'm going to the bank." "Not to meet him." "I never said I was." Rachel looked up. "You're going to use the key." "Yes." Daniel was quiet. Then he nodded. "Good." I looked at him. "Good." "Yes." "After everything you just told me, you're okay with this?" "No." He picked up his coat. "But I finally understand something." "What?" "Your mother didn't spend years trying to hide the truth from you." He looked at the silver key. "She spent years making sure you could find it when you were strong enough." Those words stayed with me. Strong enough. For years, I thought surviving meant staying quiet. I was wrong. Surviving meant refusing to let people decide your ending. Denver Central Bank was busier than I expected. People were walking in and out. Employees were answering phones. Nobody knew that my entire life was about to change inside that building. Rachel spoke with the manager while Daniel explained the situation. I stood there holding the silver key, a tiny piece of metal, something Linda once called worthless, a piece of my mother. The manager returned after checking the number. Miss Bennett. Yes. There is a safety deposit box registered under this number. My heart tightened. Who opened it? The manager looked at the records. Claire Bennett. My mother. Yes. When? He looked again. 2 weeks before her death. I closed my eyes. She knew. She knew she might not get another chance. Can I access it? The manager hesitated. According to the records, yes. Why? He pointed at the file. Because she listed one person as the future authorized holder. Who? He looked at me. You. My fingers tightened around the key. Not Gary. Not Linda. Not a guardian. Me. The person they tried to erase. The box was small. Almost disappointing. After everything I had learned, I expected something huge. Stacks of documents. Money. Proof. Instead, there are only 3 things. A letter, a flash drive, and a small envelope. My name was written on all 3. Not Nicole Parker. Nicole Bennett. My real name. I touched the letter first. The handwriting was familiar. The same handwriting from the journal. My mother. I opened it. Dear Nicole. I had to stop reading. My eyes blurred. Nobody had written my name like that before. Not because they needed something. Not because they wanted me to do something. Just because I was theirs. I continued. If you are reading this, then I failed to keep you beside me. I am sorry for that. My chest hurt. But please understand one thing. Leaving you was never my choice. Fighting for you was. I wiped my eyes. Daniel looked away, giving me privacy. The people who come after my money will tell you many things. They will say I was irresponsible. They will say I abandoned you. They will say you were difficult to love. My hands shook. Linda had said those exact words. Do not believe them. You were the reason I kept fighting. I stopped. For a moment, I was 8 years old again, waiting for someone to choose me. My mother had. She just couldn't stay. I kept reading. Your father discovered that Mercer Agricultural Holdings was hiding dangerous business practices. He collected evidence. When he died, I knew they would come after me. I looked at Daniel. He nodded. Roy Mercer wanted your father's evidence. Gary Parker wanted your trust. They both wanted something from you. The next line made me stop. But there was one thing they didn't understand. I turned the page. You were never the weakness in this fight. You were the reason they would lose. My breath caught. The final pages contained instructions. The flash drive. The locker. The evidence. Everything my mother had hidden. Rachel connected the flash drive to her laptop. Files appeared. Videos. Emails. Contracts. Bank transfers. The room became completely focused. The first file was dated years ago. A conversation between Roy Mercer and Gary Parker. Their voices filled the room. Gary said, "She's only a child." Roy answered, "She's an asset." My stomach turned. Gary asked, "And if Claire refuses?" Roy replied, "Then we make sure nobody believes her." The recording ended. Nobody spoke. Then another file, a payment record. $75,000 from Mercer Agricultural Holdings to Gary Parker. Reason, custodial transfer. Then another, a forged death certificate. Then another, false adoption modification. Everything, every lie, every piece. My whole life had been built on a crime, but now I had proof. Then the final video opened. My mother appeared, older than the photographs, tired, but smiling. I stopped breathing. "Nicole." Her voice. A voice I hadn't heard since I was a child. I covered my mouth. If you are seeing this, then you found the box. She looked directly into the camera. I wish I could have been there. Tears fell before I could stop them. I wish I could have watched you grow up. She smiled sadly. But if you are watching this, then you survived. I closed my eyes. My mother knew. She believed I would survive. Nicole, never let anyone convince you that you were unwanted. My hand shook. The moment I held you, I knew you were my daughter. Nobody moved. Not because of blood. Not because of paperwork. Because love is a choice. The video continued. And if someone tries to tell you that you owe them because they took care of you, remember this: a child is not a debt. I looked down. Those words were everything I needed to hear, everything I had waited for. The video ended with one final sentence. Find the truth, then choose your own life. The screen went black. For a long time, nobody said anything. Then Daniel quietly said, I am sorry. I looked at him. For what? For not finding this sooner. I nodded. I am too. He accepted that. No excuses. No defense. Just regret. That mattered. 3 weeks later, the story went public. Not because I wanted revenge, because the truth deserved daylight. The investigation revealed everything. Gary Parker was charged with fraud, document falsification, and financial crimes. Linda cooperated after realizing Roy was never going to protect her. Roy Mercer faced multiple charges connected to financial exploitation and illegal agreements involving minors. The farm contract was canceled. The $75,000 payment was recovered. And the trust account? After years of searching, investigators found the remaining assets. Money that had belonged to me all along. Not because I was lucky, because it had been stolen. The media called me many things. The girl who escaped. The forgotten daughter. The missing heir. I ignored most of it because I didn't want to be remembered as someone who ran away. I wanted to be remembered as someone who came back. 6 months later, I stood outside my new apartment. Not a mansion. Not some huge place. Just mine. No one could take it. No one could tell me I owed them. No one could decide my worth. My phone rang. Ethan. I answered. Hey. Hey. Things between us were still complicated. Maybe they always would be. But complicated was better than fake. How are you? Better. That's good. A pause. Then. I am sorry. I looked out the window. For what? For knowing something was wrong and staying quiet. I thought about that, then answered honestly. I'm still angry. I know. But I believe you're trying. He exhaled. Thanks. After he hung up, I opened the drawer beside my desk. Inside was my mother's necklace. The silver key was still attached. The thing Linda called worthless. The thing that led me back to myself. I touched it gently. A year ago, I had been preparing to be sold. Today, I was building my own life. They thought taking my money would break me. They thought erasing my name would erase me. They thought I would always be the girl they controlled. They were wrong. Because they didn't create a helpless daughter. They created someone who learned how to survive. My name is Nicole Bennett. I was the girl they tried to disappear. But I came back. And this time I chose where my story ended.